Spags, it's been a while since we have drafted a team together. The people want that plus EV streamer equity. We have to give it to them today.
I mean, if you are watching this stream right now, you're going to find out a whole lot about what to do on Best Ball Superflex over at Underdog, where you can play QBs, multiple QBs at any given time. We're going to dig into that one, find out what the best strategy is. We're also going to talk about this big Tyreek Hill trade coming out of nowhere, where their tea leaves to be read. We'll talk about that, as well as what it means for the Chiefs and the Dolphins. And of course, on the title, you can see the sneakiest free agents and what that means for fantasy. We're going to hit that right after this intro. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Splash Play, the fantasy football podcast for every game under the sun. And once again, I'm Chris Spags, joined by your friend and mine, Pete Overzet. And Pete, how are you doing? It's tax season was what we were talking about before the show.
Yeah, not doing great on that front, but you guys in the chat are the wind in my sails. Connor, I mean, we are distracting the heart of Best Ball America right now from their real jobs. Connor says, Pete and Spags once again saving me from having to actually work during the day. Chris G says he took the day off for this. And Dylan, in a rule of threes classic heightening here, says he quit his job for this. This is what we do for the people.
And Tommy's having a Jimmy John sub during Splash Play, so everybody's crushing right now in the chat, and we appreciate each and every one of you hanging out with us. If you're watching after the fact as well, we appreciate that, but make sure you are subscribed to Pete's channel as well as the Splash Play channel. Helps us out a bunch, and hit that like button. I know it sounds antiquated. You probably hear this on a lot of YouTube videos, but it does help out your favorite creators, and that includes us. So please hit that like button. Help us get seen by a few more people, and make sure to go over to Football Outsiders. We've been covering the offseason really heavily over there. Our guys bringing their analytic approach to everything, all the machinations out there. And unlike this show, they're talking about offensive linemen, edge rushers, all the important stuff you might want that can actually give you an edge in what you're doing for all of your football out bets, lineups, fantasy, whatever you're doing out there. So go footballoutsiders.com and check out footballoutsiders.com/subscribe for some cheap packages on how to get in there, get all the Football Outsiders data into your life. But let's talk about this Tyreek Hill thing, Pete, because it is a big one. And shout out to Nick Bird in the chat, by the way, complimenting me on baby Luca's presence on Instagram. Pete, I don't know if you've been seeing this. I don't know if you've been getting these algorithmically served to you. My baby is fucking adorable, and it's been officially confirmed.
Spags, I will agree with you. I saw the photo where you were tilting that he's already better and more photogenic than you on Instagram. And I will be honest, like I feel like there's generally, for most baby, there's like a threshold, I don't know, maybe 3-4 months old, where you can start to be like, okay, this is a cute baby. Like a lot of just like pure infants, I don't find cute. I legitimately found your child, Luca, smiling, extremely cute. So, congratulations on being ahead of that, or on the right side of that bell curve.
Yeah, if I ever could win over Pete's icy heart, then you'll know that, Peter, you getting baby crazy here? You and Lauren maybe going back to the lab after seeing these cute Instagrams, and also quality engagement on all of my platforms.
No comment at this time.
Ooh, that's not a hard no, everybody. So keep sure to keep watching this show. Maybe we'll find some fun details from Pete coming up here. But it's honestly been a lot of fun. I'm a little bit sleep deprived today, but mostly because I couldn't get to sleep myself. But little Luca's sleeping pretty well, so I've been functional for the most part, and that bodes well for this show today, where we got to talk about some real football stuff, Pete. This Tyreek Hill trade, literally out of left field. I did not see a single report leading up to this. All of a sudden in the afternoon, Tyreek Hill headed to Miami. The reports are he asked for a pay bump after Devontae Adams trade resulted in him getting an NHL, well, definitely an NHL high contract, but also an NFL high contract for himself. The Chiefs wouldn't hit Tyreek Hill's price tag. And I guess the first question I'd ask you, Pete, if you get this situation with Tyreek Hill, if he comes to you and says, hey, Devontae Adams got traded, we all know I'm as good as Devontae, I just don't get fed the ball as much in this offense, do you pay him if you're Kansas City?
It's really tough. And I think the reason why it's hard to say like, oh, one team won this trade, one team didn't, is because it depends on what time horizon you're looking on. I think you could argue and say, hey, the Chiefs Super Bowl window is still firmly open right now, and that they can easily be in that conversation. Losing Tyreek Hill, takes a ding to that. On the other hand, you have Mahomes signed to a $500 million contract. You are playing a longer game here with Mahomes' career, and you're getting a little long in the teeth with your top skill position players in Tyreek and Kelce. So I kind of like this move for them as far as a retool on the fly. I heard Sean Siegel over on the Great Stealing Bananas podcast with our buddy Ben Gretsch say that he likened it to a dynasty trade where you kind of sell the top on a premium asset and reload with a ton of other assets, in this case, cap space and a bunch of draft picks. So I kind of like it for the long-term Chiefs, even though I think for this year, it really hurts them. They're heading into a really tough AFC West conference. It's going to be really hard to get out of that, division, much less the conference. So I think it's tough to unpack, but ultimately I think I like this deal for them.
It's a really big question of what matters more, the pass catcher or the guy throwing the ball. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is about as elite as you could possibly find, and he has been for the last few years, despite whatever the results have been in terms of actually winning a championship last year. But Tyreek certainly has been a guy that can get into space, get open, can make the most out of every play. I do agree with you, though. Like, I think that the Chiefs saw what they had with Tyreek, think that Mahomes is good enough to make some other guys pad their stats. You have Mecole Hardman there, who we've talked about a lot on this show, really across the fantasy industry overall, who does a lot with what Tyreek does. You're going to have him in tow. Maybe you could bump his numbers up, just feed him the ball like you did Tyreek. You have some younger guys as well that you'll probably pick up in the draft. And you also have Josh Gordon, who, I know has been out of the league, in and out of the league, and he is still going to be on this roster, it looks like. And he's a guy that maybe if the reclamation project does work out, he gets some time in this offense. There's some rumors as well, Pete. I don't know if you saw this one on Twitter. LaVisca, apparently they've been inquiring about him going there, which would be pretty crazy as well. There's just a lot of ways to skin the cat of getting, decent value in. And now you have a really good Juju Smith-Schuster possession receiver in the mix, a guy who can get those underneath targets where maybe you don't even need that role to be there. There's a lot of ways they could do it here. And I'm with you. Like, it's tough to say. I love Tyreek, not as a human being, but certainly as a player. And I think for Kansas City, like, they made the right move. And there's a lot of ways that they can get that production from somewhere else.
Yeah, and they did just sign MVS yesterday as well. So that's kind of another big thing there for them. And, I think maybe we do see kind of a shift in the offense as far as it being more spread around, whereas we had a super condensed target tree with Tyreek and Kelce in this past year specifically. You see probably more deep shots mixed into Hardman and MVS, more underneath stuff mixed in with Juju and Tyreek or and Travis Kelce. And then, like you said, I think it's a lock that they draft someone as well. And I guess then the question is just how good does that prospect end up being? Can he kind of emerge into, an alpha role, or is he just going to be, part of the weaponry there? But I do think it's going to be a very different Chiefs offense than we've seen for a while here.
Yeah, and I think if they get that young guy in and hopefully he signs his contract early enough, whoever this guy may be that they end up drafting, or if they draft multiple guys, and you hear the reports, this guy signed his contract, he's in camp, he's building the rapport. I think maybe you can kind of ding down Mecole Hardman and give whatever that rookie is a little bit of a bump. But I think if you see these guys coming in a little bit later in camp and you hear about the reports of Mecole's out there running with the first team, doing all that stuff, or Josh Gordon somehow, or MVS, like I think DFS-wise, thinking about how a week one would go, you end up seeing Juju Smith-Schuster, if I had to guess, probably around like 6K that first week. Travis Kelce going to be in that 7 to 8K range. And then you'll have like an MVS or a Gordon or a Hardman at like 3K. And I think that's sort of, or 3K range rather, like that's the kind of move that could end up being big. And MVS, we know, Pete, is a guy who really can blow up the top off of an offense or a defense rather in a merely meaningful way.
Yeah, I know. I mean, MVS was getting a ton of buzz last preseason. I remember, we always joke about the best shape of their life, best camp of their life, but the drumbeat, as the fantasy thought leaders say, was pretty strong on him. And a lot of people think if he wasn't as banged up as he was, that he was on his way to a massive year. So, pretty nice run out there for Valdez-Scantling. It reminds me of when Brandon Cooks, bounced around. He had Drew Brees, had Tom Brady as his quarterbacks before his streak ended there on the Texans. But MVS going from Rodgers to Mahomes, he's never going to be able to play for another quarterback and not be disappointed after that back-to-back crew.
And the trade for Kansas City yields a 2022 first-round pick, which will be towards the end of the draft, of course, with where the Chiefs were, or with where Miami's pick was. Number 29, second-round pick for them as well. Number 50, fourth-round pick, plus fourth and sixth rounders in next year's draft going to the Chiefs' way. We got to talk quickly, though, Pete. There were reports here, and I don't know who leaked it out. I guess it was probably the Jets, just showing that they were trying to do something. But the reports were that the Chiefs would have taken the Jets trade, which didn't include a first-rounder, but did include more second- and third-round capital. And I think that's one, Pete, that I could could see why if you're Tyreek Hill, you don't want to go to the Jets, but that would have been a game changer for Zach Wilson, who needs probably one more really strong target to go with an emerging Elijah Moore. And I feel like in this spot, I get why Tyreek doesn't go to the Jets, but boy, if he went there, that team would be really live.
Did Spags just freeze on you guys or just me? Oh, I think you're back now.
Oh, my bad. Oh, that was weird. I didn't see anything drop off at all.
Your face froze for a sec. Yeah, I mean, I know people are down on Tua, but I still think there's less variance as far as what, Tyreek Hill, if he's looking at that trade too, thinking, I'd much rather play with Tua, I guess, than Zach Wilson, even though I think you can argue that there's still room for Zach Wilson to improve. He has the tools to be a good quarterback. We just didn't see a ton of it. But yeah, I do not blame him for going down to Miami there. Although kind of analogous as far as going and pairing up with Jalen Waddle and going and pairing up with Elijah Moore. I think both of those better prospects from that class. But yes, I think for everyone involved for fantasy, this was the better landing spot.
Tyreek Hill did get paid $120 million on that contract, 4 years, $72.2 million. And he also gets $52.5 million in signing. So that is a nice number there going Tyreek's way. And the Dolphins, Pete, you talked about it briefly there with Jalen Waddle. I do think if you're Cedric Wilson, or if you're also somebody out there who drafted Cedric Wilson in best ball, thinking, oh, he's going to be paired with Devontae Parker or whoever else is left, Preston Williams, and get a good amount of targets, I think you got to have a lot less hope for that, especially if this Miami offense does resemble what Mike McDaniel did in San Francisco. But I think in this spot, Pete, it's going to be a good fantasy offense. Tyreek's going to get there. I just have a little bit less faith than any of these Dolphins pieces where if it's Parker, if it's Preston Williams, if it's Gesicki, their DFS plays for sure. But if you're drafting them for best ball, unless you're getting that full stack, I don't know how you have a ton of faith in this Dolphins offense, because it seems like a lot of what they want to do is just kind of mitigate the risk that comes with Tua and how he's played the last few years.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about where we think their ADPs might settle on ship chasing the other night. And I do think it's a situation where I don't think I'm going to be wanting to go out of my way to stack both Waddle and Tyreek with Tua. I feel like cost adjusted, you're just paying a lot for that production. So I'm at least initially, I think if I'm trying to stack up the Dolphins, which I'll definitely be trying in some instances, it will be with one of Waddle and Tyreek with Tua, and then tack on a Gesicki and then maybe another flyer wide receiver there. But yeah, it's not like the Cowboys situation last year where I would be happy to get CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, at the 2-3 turn stacked up with Dak. So I do think it's a different situation. And I find it unlikely that both Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle could have, top 12, top 15 seasons together. Is it within the range of outcomes? Sure, but I think unlikely. And so I think I'm probably going to be picking and choosing in those drafts and not going out of my way to kind of stack up the full premium Dolphins pass catchers.
It all seems like Chris talking about George Pickens, maybe some people wanting him in the Chiefs world. And I guess there are rumors out there that our pal Pat Crane, of course, who does the ship chasing show with Pete, lots of great work over at NBC Sports Edge as well. Rumors that they signed Ronald Jones over in Kansas City. He was visiting yesterday, and that was confirmed by a lot of reporters out there. Really, the Chiefs reloading in an interesting way, but one that it feels like overall, Pete, really going to be hard to surmise that first week here for Kansas City if they do have a Ronald Jones in tow, in addition to all these wide receiver changes.
Yeah, I knew he was visiting. I was trying to Twitter search right here to see if there's any confirmation. I don't know how reliable Chiefs core is. Probably not that reliable with 1,700 followers, but agreed to terms here. Chiefs Focus coming in the mention saying, yes, it was on our show last night. So who knows? All these Chiefs microblogs battling it out for credit on the Ronald Jones sighting.
Good for them, though. I'm sure reporting it out really hard. They're putting on their little fedoras that say press on it, going out there to find out the good news about Ronald Jones potentially. But honestly, this is the one way, though, where Pat digging his heels in on Rojo could actually pay off finally after all these years.
You know what? You mentioned fedora, and that reminds me, our buddy Cody Main over at ETR, which shout out to Cody, just got a full-time job as the director of niche sports for ETR. And he has been just pumping out a steady stream of USFL tweets. So if you're looking for all these updates, but he dug up this old tweet about Larry Fedora that I'll pull up now from September 17th, 2013, says Fedora just said he drinks 9 Red Bulls a day during football season. I don't think that's possible. I just love that this nugget confirms everything that we were learning about Larry Fedora via Google imaging him. I mean, does that not look like a guy that just smashes Red Bulls?
That explains why he was in such good shape, because he's coursing pure caffeine through his bloodstream at any minute of the day. The metabolism got to take a jump there. But yes, this is the official podcast of the New Orleans Breakers. So we're excited for Larry Fedora, excited for this news. And I honestly have seen some positive buzz about Kyle Sloter, though it seems like the Philly team is the one. And we're going to dig more into the USFL coming up. I know actually Cody had said he wants to do the show as well to come on here. And we're glad to pick Cody's brain after he helped us, as well as a lot of you guys out there win some money during the Pro Bowl. I think there's an interesting couple teams here at the USFL, probably a bit of a week 1, week 2 edge that you can find out there. But Larry Fedora, clearly the edge is just mainlining energy drinks like a white trash kid in the Midwest.
I'll also give a shout out. I'm working on a USFL video, and I've been using some of the articles by Brian Knowles over at Football Outsiders. He's been doing team previews. He had that big kind of overall USFL preview. Incredibly comprehensive reviews, even more comprehensive than I need for my purposes. But man, he's leaving no stone unturned over there. It's under the ramblings tag. I'm like, when is Football Outsiders going to get us a USFL tag for the site? But right now you have to go under the very generic ramblings to find this.
Honestly, I'm glad that you're saying that, Pete, because Brian, certainly is a guy that's been grinding here. We had him tasked through our editor-in-chief, Aaron. I was like, hey, can we get somebody to do USFL? And Brian initially was like, I don't know how to cover this. And I sent him an athletic article and was like, look, here's what they're doing. Just dig into it, dude. Like, put on your information gathering hat. And he has been doing a really good job. Like, he's finding niche things about these, third string wide receivers in the NFL who are on rosters, pointing them out. Like, I think it's worth reading through his team by team previews over on Football Outsiders. So I'm glad Pete brought that up. And I'm glad I didn't even tell you about that. So that's actually completely organic on your end.
Yeah. And, I am on the Football Outsiders payroll, so even
Sure.
I have to pump the bags every once in a while.
All right. Anything else about this trade, or is it time to hit the 10 sneakiest free agency moves, Pete? Because, we got to do a little bit of a listicle work here in the offseason to make this all count.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get to 10. I definitely have 3 to 4 that I was flagging before the show. And the goal with these two, obviously, the Tyreek Hills, the Devontae Adams moves of the world, everyone knows about them. All of the ramifications have been discussed ad nauseum. We're trying to dig a little deeper, the stuff that on the surface might not seem that impactful, but could ultimately have a lot of sway on fantasy production and ADPs.
So I'm going to let you go with yours first, because I put together a bunch of them just in case you didn't feel like you had enough. And I figured we could debate if they actually are sneaky or not. But I'm curious to have you set the bar first, because some of mine, I feel like you'll go like, that's not sneaky, and I'm going to feel like an asshole. So I'll let you go first.
All right, I'm going to go really sneaky, almost boring sneaky. And there's a little thematic through line here. I'm going to do 2 pass catching running backs that re-signed with their teams, James White and JD McKissick. And I think this is specifically relevant for best ball. Those are the type of players I often like to mix in to my running back groups when I'm drafting specifically 0RB or anchor RB teams, just knowing that they give you that high floor baseline production when you're trying to let the chaos of the season catch up and then let the breakouts and the handcuffs really run loose. And those type of players did not hit by and large last year. Nyheim Hines was another one that didn't hit. Some of the rookies we were chasing, like Darrington Evans as pass catchers, those guys didn't hit. And so I'm not ready to kind of throw the baby out with the 2021 bathwater in that regard. And I do think what the teams have kind of told us with getting those signings back is pretty important. And I think both those guys could be set for, back, what's the word I'm looking for? Bounce back years. I mean, James White in particular, because the team brought in Leonard Fournette to interview him, which I thought was really weird considering that Damian Harris and Ramondre are really good interior runners. And I don't necessarily know that they need Leonard Fournette in that capacity, but they could have used him as a pass catcher, and they were really hampered last year when James White went down. They were trying to use Brandon Bolden, not that effective. So to me, it says the team really does want to prioritize a pass catching back. They don't get Fournette, but they re-sign James White. I think we can see a really big year from him. Mac Jones taking a leap, more checkdowns, more competence in that offense. So I'm ready to get back on the James White train. And same with JD McKissick, right? When everyone fell back in love with Antonio Gibson, we're right back to where we were, which is JD McKissick being a very relevant part of their offense. So I think those two moves are a little sneaky. And if people have kind of written those two guys off, I think it's time to bring them back into your player pool.
Yeah, the kind of guys like you're talking about for best ball where they can just have those 10 catch days or, 8 to 10 catch days out of nowhere just because the game script kind of has that worked out or just, the way that the team is scheming to get things done. So I'm with you on that. I think James White comes to a little more risk just because we do have Ty Montgomery in the room too. I think, we could see more pass catching work for Ramondre Stevenson and White coming off the injury at his age. You never know at this point how that can go. But I'm with you. Like conceptually, I think that pass catching running backs being back where they are in an offense where they have been relied on as safety blankets for a while, both those guys, I think certainly makes a lot of sense. So Pete, here's where I think you're going to draw the line at sneakiness. Marcus Mariota, Atlanta, at his price tag. Are we going to say that's sneaky? Because it did kind of come in under the wire Monday during the show. We did get that news. And I feel like in this spot, I still think the Falcons take a QB in their first round pick where they have that, I think, 8th overall pick. But in this spot, I feel like Marcus Mariota getting a chance here has some at least one defined target in Kyle Pitts. We'll see what else they get in the draft or elsewhere. But I feel like Mariota in this spot, a running QB, a guy who was really good and limited snaps for the Raiders last year, being used mostly as a gimmick guy. But we know he could run. We know he can throw the ball. We know he does have that pedigree. Like if he is going to reclaim his career, it probably is here in Atlanta.
Yeah, you're in the clear on this one. I debated including Mariota. He wasn't quite sneaky enough for my taste, but he's not aggressively unsneaky in a way that I would make fun of you for that pick. And I think there's uncertainty to how this shakes out. It seems likely that he heads into the season as their starter, but there's still a lot that could happen. Who knows if they end up getting eyes for someone in the draft, but yeah, I think this could have ramifications for how they run their entire offense. We were talking on Chip Chasing the other night too, that, this might be an ideal spot for one of these good running backs in this draft class. Say you get a Breece Hall in there, then all of a sudden you're running some of those college concepts, the read option there with Mariota in this team. It could be a little fun for fantasy. I saw a quote from Mariota the other day saying that his time in Las Vegas was a nice reset on his career. So maybe we're getting some Zen-like refreshed Marcus Mariota heading into this season, and he delivers on kind of the promise that he had as a draft prospect.
Yeah, so, okay, I'm glad that fit the sneakiness. I'll throw one back at you before you can take one more guy off the board. Deonta Foreman to Carolina, I think is going to be an interesting one. We've had some rumors going out there. Christian McCaffrey's on the block. We know they have Chuba Hubbard. They did lose Amir Abdullah in this offseason, go into the Raiders, but still a spot where you think Deonta Foreman, a guy who is kind of built like that bell cow back. We saw him fill that role with Derrick Henry out down the stretch for the Titans last year. And I think in this spot, it's one of those signings that you just don't see it happen. Deonta Foreman's moved around the league the last few years after being a guy that was pretty hyped up as a Texans running back. But in this spot, Pete, I feel like Deonta Foreman, to me, it says like what the Panthers are doing was preparing for anything. I think there's a really decent chance. I don't know who they would send McCaffrey to at this point. I think there's a chance that trade happens before the draft or at the draft. I feel like if that's the case, Deonta Foreman could end up being a 15 to 20 touch back somehow, depending how they approach Chuba this year. I feel like for the Panthers, like they need something, and Deonta Foreman is in fact something.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that makes it hard for me to get excited about Deonta Foreman. And I was drafting him a lot. And I think even in some of our teams that we drafted on here pre-free agency, like he was one of my favorite kind of late round running back flyers. I think it's just a little hard because you do wonder if McCaffrey goes down. Let's assume McCaffrey stays in Carolina. How muddied that split would be with Chuba, or if Chuba is just completely fallen out of favor with the offense and we would see Foreman kind of step in as the 1-for-1 replacement. Obviously his skill set is different than McCaffrey, but I guess my point is that I feel like as a handcuff, it's maybe a little bit more muddled. But we also saw Deonta Foreman in kind of a muddled handcuff situation behind Derrick Henry with Dontrell Hilliard and that crew. So he can certainly produce in that situation. And I think he's still pretty interesting for sure.
All right, Pete, give me another sneaky pick here that we can do before we get to our Superflex best ball draft on Underdog.
Yeah, I'll do another thematic one, maybe 2 tight end signings that maybe flew a bit under the mainstream radar, although I'm sure anyone in the chat today, I see all of our best ball thought leaders, this did not sneak past them. But I will say Gerald Everett to the Chargers to play with Justin Herbert, and then CJ Uzoma to the Jets.
I had both these. Great minds.
You had both of these?
Yeah.
All right. There you go. We're getting sneaky here. I mean, the Gerald Everett one is kind of obvious. I've always been a bit of a Gerald Everett fanboy and kind of been like, oh, he was splitting time with Tyler Higbee on the Rams. Oh, now he's in Seattle and he's splitting time with their rotation of tight ends. And I think you can make the case. We still don't know. I mean, Jared Cook undrafted or not undrafted, sorry, unrestricted free agent. I assume the team lets him go. There's lots of Donald Parham fanboys. Maybe you could make the case he's going to be in more of a tight end committee with him. But I think the upside of him kind of playing the majority of the snaps in that offense with Justin Herbert is pretty high. And I like the risk reward of drafting him now. And then CJ Uzomah too. He was just really good down the stretch in the playoffs last year with Burrow. Huge downgrade from Burrow to Wilson. But if Wilson makes the leap, I think we saw how much they were kind of targeting and using the tight end in that offense last year without a lot of tight end talent. So I think that could bode well. He's a huge upgrade on the Ryan Griffin types. And so those are the two guys, obviously Everett more so than Uzomah, but I think those guys are firmly on the tight end, radar for best ball. I think those are guys I'd be content having as my tight end 2 to pair with, say, one of those top 6 or 7 tight ends. I would be willing to roll with those guys in that capacity.
Yeah, I'm with you on both those guys. And I think you made a good point about Everett. Certainly a guy who's shown the ability to get the ball downfield as well with the catch and run ability and hasn't really had the best shot. Uzomah is dating Kay Adams. That stock up for CJ Uzomah.
I was just going to say, I mean, this is the exact kind of news item I know Spags will get excited to discuss here. I had missed this, Silas. You are grinding harder than me. Wow, that's a big one there.
Hopefully she's nursing him back to full health.
No, God, Spags, you can't just let it sit. You got to leave a little to the imagination for the chat and not fill in the blanks for them.
He'll be nice and healed up. The one caveat I would add to the Jets adding Uzomah is that they did add Tyler Conklin as well, who was pretty capable as a Vikings tight end last year with Irv Smith on the sidelines. Not a guy who's going to take a ton of targets away. And I'm with you. Mostly Uzomah is the one that I think would have a lot of value. I'm getting chastised in the chat, but I stand by it. If you watch that Good Morning Football, if you don't feel those vibes for Kay Adams, CJ's saying it's not true. Look, if that's one of those, even if it's not true, if I'm CJ, I go, no comment. Just let that one ride.
Yeah. This is what we do around here. We spread salacious rumors about NFL media, people dating players.
So here's one that I'm going to follow that up, which does kind of dovetail a little bit. And I'm going and mixing my order up a little bit, but I do think Drew Lock and Noah Fant going to Seattle is kind of interesting. And Drew Lock, I don't know that he ends up starting. I think that's certainly a risk profile there if you are drafting him. There has to be a reason, though, that Seattle asked for him. And we have seen Drew Lock. Something that's always stood out for me is the way that he approaches football has a lot of bootleg Josh Allen to him, where it's like he runs the ball a lot. He throws the ball downfield. There's some inaccuracy. I don't know that Seattle, with what we've seen in the last few years, is the one to get what they want out of him, or to get the most out of him, rather. But you have Fant now. You have Lockett. You do have Metcalf. You have real weapons in Seattle that he can go to. If you're ever going to see Drew Lock be useful, I think this is the time. So I feel like him and Noah Fant, if you could stack up Seattle with Drew Lock, I think it's worth the shot. You can see Geno Smith win that job. You can see a rookie come in. I think it does come with that risk profile. But overall, to me, Pete, I think Drew Lock just does the stuff that you want to see a guy do. He just hasn't done it well historically. So again, that's the risk profile.
Yeah, I might have to finally put my foot down on this one. I mean, it is a sneaky call to say that it's going to be sneaky, but man, Drew Lock is so bad. You said bootleg. I was trying to think, what are the dime store, Walmart version? I don't know if there's a comparison that can actually do Josh Allen justice in that comparison as far as Drew Lock, but I know what you're saying. Drew
Lock is the Jolt Cola to Josh Allen's Coca-Cola.
Yeah. I mean, I think just with Lock, there's so many ways this goes wrong for him specifically. They could draft a QB, Metcalf and Lockett, one or both of them could get traded or moved. This entire offense, is already in a tailspin. And I don't know if it's a situation I want to, hitch my wagon to, not to mention, I mean, Pete Carroll already with one of the best quarterbacks in the league wanted to run the ball the entire damn game. Think about how much he's going to want to run with Drew Lock as his quarterback. I mean, his job is going to be to stick the ball in Rashad Penny's chest, I think, 95% of the game.
Maybe, hopefully it's a read option formats. Then I'll give Drew Lock a chance. I'll throw in one more to you, Pete, as well. Byron Pringle to the Bears. One of those moves that I think kind of can fall under the radar as Demarcus Robinson leaves the Chiefs as well, as the Chiefs bring in all their guys. But I feel like for this, and that is actually a good way to sum up Drew Lock from FF Doom. But I would say in this spot that Byron Pringle in Chicago, to me, makes a lot of sense. Darnell Mooney established himself as the deep ball target in that Chicago offense last year. Certainly had as much of a rapport with Justin Fields as anybody had in that overall receiver core. Allen Robinson gone now too, so Mooney's going to have to take over some of those routes. And I feel like you can see Pringle work the underneath. He's a guy that in that Chiefs offense, you saw break a lot of slant passes and go deep. But I feel like in these kind of, and I'm not trying to do the football game tape watcher thing, but in these like dagger kind of concepts where you could send, Pringle underneath and you have Mooney up top, I feel like there's actually a way here for Pringle to be really good. I'm not the biggest Cole Kmet guy, so that'd be the one caveat that I would say that other people probably feel differently, including a lot of start people out there. I feel like in the spot, though, Pete, Pringle's going to get the snaps. You have no Tyreek Cohen coming back either, so it's not like that's going to be a threat. And you can put him in the slot. You can put him outside. I feel like Pringle's got a lot of potential here if this offense does rise to the tide of just getting rid of Matt Nagy.
Yeah, I didn't know we had to announce whether we are Cole Kmet guys or not, but I, for the record, am a Cole Kmet guy. Yeah, I will say this one's so sneaky that I even forgot about it, and I do. So that I think that's a pretty good barometer for sneaky signings, and yeah, I think it's pretty interesting with Allen Robinson cleared out of there.
You got anybody else you want to add, or should I throw one or two more here and then we can go into the draft?
Yeah, we need to get drafting.
All right, so you open up the room here, and I'll kind of close out the segment. Just moves that I thought were interesting. I'm just noting Teddy Bridgewater to Miami, I think, is sneaky just because it is the hedge against Tua being bad or him not getting Tyreek the ball in the way he wants, the grousing that can happen in that situation. I think that's why Teddy Bridgewater is in tow and certainly can take over that job if we do see Tua falter. I would also throw into the mix David Njoku being franchised in Cleveland is one that no Austin Hooper there. Austin Hooper is now going to be a Titan, which is another sneaky move. I think him and Robert Woods going to be slept on. But Njoku, the fact they're willing to pay that price tag, the tight end price tag is actually not an easy one to swallow. But Njoku, we've seen have some upside. He is a monster of a man. He's got that Vernon Davis build where he is just shredded to the gills. I feel like in this spot with Deshaun Watson, who we know is going to air it out, ball's got to go somewhere. And it's right now looking a lot like it's going to be going to Peoples-Jones, going to Amari Cooper, and probably going a lot to Njoku. So that would wrap up my sneaky thoughts, unless Pete, Juju to the Chiefs, probably not sneaky enough to make the list.
That's not sneaky. Maybe it would have been sneaky if, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Once he was traded, it was no longer sneaky. I was screenshotting. I did get the Influencer 101. You love to see it here. I haven't gotten to do a bunch of these. The first live Superflex draft I did was on Ship Chasing on Wednesday. Otherwise, I've just hopped in a few of these slow drafts, and yeah, excited to feel these out. They're definitely a different beast.
Historical Anomaly is asking a question here, which a lot of people might be curious about. And I saw Brick rolling out an overlay here, some of his projects he's been doing with the Chromecast overlays on sites to give you data. Is this how we're doing on the screen right now, Pete?
Yeah, I'm giving it a test drive here. I can explain it in a sec, but let's make our first pick. I haven't had a chance to get Josh Allen yet. I'm happy to grab him here if you're down.
Okay. Yeah, that works.
Who else would be in the conversation for you there?
Mahomes, I think, would be in the conversation. And for the Superflex, where there's some interesting tweets that have gone around out there. I saw Josh Larkey, I think, over at Roto Underworld put out an interesting tweet analyzing some of the early data from Superflex and what it looks like. So if you're confused by why the QBs are going so high, there is a premium here. Of course, you can play QBs in the flex in this format, but also there's just a very high likelihood you need to have two QBs pretty frequently in your lineup. So I get Josh Allen. The thing to me that's interesting about Mahomes is that people don't know what that stack is. I think you could still get MVS for a little bit cheaper than you probably should. You're probably getting Juju, maybe at an elevated price, but still, like, that stack, there's a lot of ways to kind of get the Chiefs. So that's why I would go Mahomes maybe at 1-1, but hard to argue with Josh Allen and a year that the Bills are really pushing all the chips in the middle to try to win it all.
Yeah, I mean, I like Patrick Mahomes a lot more when he had Tyreek Hill. So I don't mind letting him slip there, or at least not reaching past Josh Allen, where I think everything's really lining up for Josh Allen, both from like a continuity standpoint. Oh, this would have been one of the other sneaky free agent signings I would have mentioned, would have been Jamison Crowder. Just because I know what's going to happen, myself included. We all want Isaiah McKenzie to have a bigger role. He's explosive. He's fun. And yet I think it's far more likely that Crowder's kind of a 1-for-1 replacement with Cole Beasley in this offense. And yeah, they're going to run a lot of 4 wide stuff, but I think Crowder is probably going to have a pretty big role. And so I think that could be pretty sneaky. And when we're drafting, Josh Allen, we're always looking for those backdoor stacks. Last year, we had lots of good options there, and to kind of have Crowder as part of that backdoor stack option, I think is pretty nice.
Another guy too, OJ Howard, like you're kind of leveraging against the high ADP on Dawson Knox if you go his way. And OJ Howard is one of the Bills signings that there were honestly a lot of sneaky tight end signings is one thing I observed from going through the list and just trying to figure out who to talk about in the show. But Howard, we know, can get downfield. We know if he's been fed targets, he's actually looked pretty good. The issue is he's running up against that Gronkowski time the last few years, Cameron Rate before that. This year, like let's say Dawson Knox, and obviously we can't predict injuries here. If Dawson Knox get hurt and then OJ Howard's getting all those snaps that that Knox was getting last year, or those end zone targets, like Howard could be an absolute beast in that same situation. I don't think it's that Knox was some singular talent. So I'm with you. Like the Bills do have some interesting stacks here. The issue is that you have to pay that premium for Stephon Diggs then. And I don't know that I'm buying it after last year where I just bought in every single week and he just kind of kicked me in the nuts over and over again.
Yeah, and trust me, I mean, I've gotten excited about OJ Howard year after year. I was in on him when he came out of the draft just because he had such a fun profile, and it just never unlocked for him. Granted, he was always blocked by Cameron Brate and then later Gronk, but I think it's going to be hard for him to emerge even as a 1B with Dawson Knox. But you do have the contingent handcuff value, and if Knox were to get hurt, I think Howard could be pretty fun as the lead tight end there in that offense. We're almost on the clock here again. We're going to have 2 picks here. We could think about, I mean, Diggs is definitely in play to stack up Josh Allen with, and then I think we can go lots of different directions. I don't mind coming away with a stud RB here. The running backs are definitely worth more in this format than they are in the standard formats, and wide receivers are worth a little less just with the way the starting lineup requirements, like running backs are now on more of an equal foot with not being able to start one extra than the running backs. So we are on the clock here. I'll put in a vote for Diggs as one of our picks, but what do you think for the other one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on Diggs. I think that's just one that we got to bite the bullet on. I don't believe in this Justin Fields ADP. I'll say that right now.
Silas likes Kelsey.
Kelsey is interesting because you got to fill that tight end spot, but then we're not correlating. It does feel like we can get Knox at some point, or OJ Howard. I don't mind taking Najee Harris here. Like it feels like they're going to rely on the run a lot of checkdowns with whatever they have at QB. So if you like running backs and you're kind of giving them a little more value this go around, I feel like Najee really good in his rookie year. The jump from rookie to second year always going to be a good one. So I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I don't have a Najee share, I don't think yet in these super flex drafts. Not my favorite player, but happy to mix him in here. And the big vote of confidence, the fantasy football counselor on his Instagram stories the other day was asked, who is his 101? He said it's the Concheapsis that is selecting Jonathan Taylor there, but his true 101 is Najee Harris. So anytime we can align ourselves with the counselor's favorite players, I think we're in good shape.
How's he doing? Like, I feel like you've given up on including him as a regular bit for yourself, but it's nice that you just keep tabs with him like an ex that you just want to see do well from afar.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a counselor completist, where I would never miss a single piece of content he put out. But now I check in on it. I would say I catch up on his stories maybe once every 3 to 4 days. Because he'll do like 15 stories in a single day. So yeah. Yesterday I checked in on his stories and saw he had that hot take. He also has brought another content creator under his wing, the Fantasy Football Blondie. I'm not sure their relationship, their arrangement, but I am keeping tabs on her as well.
I'm sure she's giving a lot of great advice. I'm sure that she loves that branding as well. So good for her, good for the counselor, and the love that they have, I'm sure, is either content partners or more than content partners. So Pete, we talked a little bit about the strategy here and the importance of taking multiple QBs. How are you approaching that here? Because we did eschew the QBs. You could see them flying off the board here. Do you believe in the concept of taking your one stud QB and then trying to take a flyer with a lower rung QB that can have some upside?
So it's tough. In general, I feel just compared to other formats I played in, I've done Superflex, best ball drafts before, Superflex Dynasty. It does seem like the quarterbacks are being overdrafted. However, everyone's just collectively agreeing to overdraft them. So maybe that's just the new reality for this contest. I'm not sure I can sign off on what NF42 is doing from the 12 hole here. Not sure I would rip off 4 straight quarterbacks, but that said, unless I'm getting 2 quarterbacks early, say like Sire is doing here from the 4-hole, Lamar and Brady, then I think with this build, you could get away with 3 quarterbacks. I feel like we have flexibility for a 3 quarterback or 4 quarterback build. And it's been tough. Like I was in the 5th round of a draft, slow draft of these, and I wanted to take T. Higgins so bad, but I'm looking at the quarterback tiers and I ended up taking Mac Jones because the starters do dry up really quickly. And I want to make sure that I'm at least getting 2 starters. And then I think you can backfill with some flyers, some of the rookies, I think are still incredibly good QB values in here, but you don't want to play chicken with quarterback in these rooms.
I gotta say, like, I don't mind taking the flyer. Like, you're seeing Trevor Lawrence going in the 4th round is a little bit tough, but like Matt Ryan, Zach Wilson. Boy, Zach Wilson's ADP is up, huh? I do like Zach Wilson as a pick here, just because you can sort of identify that stack. I think we should grab other talent first, though. Kittle, interesting.
I do really still value getting an elite tight end in these drafts. I would love to do Kittle and a quarterback, I think.
Okay, let's say Kittle first then.
Yeah,
And
so
then
we'll
a
take
quarterback.
Yeah, so I like your thought too of kind of thinking through other stack options. I took Mac Jones around this area the other day, knowing you have Myers and Bourne, although the stacks aren't quite as exciting. Zach Wilson, I don't know if Elijah Moore would fall to us coming back. It's a possibility, but yeah, I would say Wilson or Mac Jones.
Daniel Jones would be in the mix for me too, but I think let's try Zach Wilson, because I think we can get what we could do is basically try to, well, hopefully Elijah Moore will fall to us. And if you are in the chat, of course, we do have some people in the chat. I'm seeing Devin Davis is actually playing this one with us as well. Please don't take Elijah Moore. I'll ask, but we could take Elijah Moore then and a couple of the rookies, and I think that could flesh out the team pretty well, where we then get flyers on rookies who have upside, and then maybe like a Chris Olave goes there or somebody like that.
Yeah. Yes. I don't know. I mean, what was it? We were doing our first drafts. We were trying to nail the exact rookie QB stacks with our other players. I don't know if we're feeling those powers again, but I would say structurally, I'm very, very comfy with this kind of construction through 5, where you have 2 quarterbacks, bell cow running back, elite wide receiver, elite tight end. I feel like that's where I'm most comfortable being coming out of 5 rounds.
Also worth pointing out, because we did give the Football Outsiders plug earlier, the FO40 has been getting some updates, including the real life projections, or the real life ramifications board. That is the FO40, just ranking the prospects that are going to matter the most at football. But of course, the FO40 fantasy board that's sponsored by our friends over at Underdog, where you can use the promo code SPLASH or the promo code FO40 to get a deposit match up to $100 on Underdog. So if you want to play in the Superflex game or any others and you haven't used Pete's promo code yet, or some of the other people out there doing great work doing Underdog drafts, go use the promo code SPLASH over at Underdog right now and get a $100 or up to a $100 deposit match for yourself. The wide receivers on the FO40, Pete, actually have moved around a little bit. Garrett Wilson now number 1 fantasy receiver on the list. Drake London number 2. Jahan Dotson actually taking a pretty big jump.
Wow.
At number 3. Yeah.
I have not heard Dotson up that hard, up that
Yeah.
high anywhere.
You must have watched Kay Adams.
Yeah, I meant to, Jesus, Spags. I meant to circle back to this because we were on the clock when it started. But yes, just to clear it up, our buddy, Brick75, aka Brian Hooper, who I do lulls with every week, he has a HUD that he is calling it here, which is a Chrome extension. And he's going to have it for various sports books, DraftKings. He's going to get it working for the Underdog Pick'em as well. But right now it allows you to get a Chrome extension. Right now I have ETR's rankings, Leone's rankings, because he's been updating these fairly regularly. And what's going to be cool is there's going to be some customization with this. Like, this is just what I chose to have as the 2 kind of columns of data to include, but you could knock yourself out with whatever you want to put in there. Like, I'm pretty excited to put maybe exposures, what I already have of a guy, once I start getting to draft a ton of BBM teams. And I know Brian's going to continue working on this. So we'll be sure to talk about it more on lulls. And you can check out his site, brick75.com, if you're interested in getting that for, I think it's a small monthly fee that you can get through PayPal.
Yeah, I know Brick's doing a lot of interesting stuff with the overlays. I think he's gonna run into some issues with the sportsbook ones sooner than later. So I'd say get your money while you can. Use those projections. As people really, Nana P has not made an appearance on the show in a while. I think she needed a little break, needed to hibernate like a bear for the winter. But springtime seems like Nana Pete time.
Yeah, Nana might come back with a vengeance here one of these days.
But I do think that what Brick is doing is very interesting. And honestly, I have some concerns. Like, I think Underdog, our guy Andrew in the chat, they're not going to do, limiting something like this, I would think. I don't want to speak for them. But I do think DraftKings Sportsbook, like some of the stuff he's doing, just, get in there now while the getting's good is what I would say. Because it takes not a lot of work for them to block that if they notice that they're getting hammered on props by a really sharp extension. So check it out, Ryan Hooper, _, if you want to go see what Brick's doing. All right, receiver, Elijah Moore, we got him. Thank you, Draft Room. What a kind draft room for once.
I know normally they go out of their way to tilt us. Yeah, so feel good about getting him to get that double stack going. And then, yeah, I'm trying to see if anything else is really jumping out at me here. We should always probably check in on the quarterback stuff. I don't think we have to. I think we're probably looking at a running back or wide receiver otherwise here. Anyone jumping out to you? I mean, I still love ETN in this range. I definitely prefer him over Zeke and maybe not Jacobs. Maybe that's pretty close. But where are you leaning here?
I mean, Michael Thomas, nobody wants to draft, but I think it's still interesting there too. I do like Josh Jacobs a lot. Like we've talked about him, so I would go his way.
Yeah, I'm fine to do Josh Jacobs. Got to envision lots of touchdown opportunities coming in that offense, assuming that Devontae Adams and Darren Waller don't steal them all.
So here's the thing, people in the chat are talking a lot about Malik Willis. We've talked on this show a lot about Malik Willis, where I knew from our behind the scenes conversations that our FO guys were very big on him early on, thought that he would rise up the draft board. Now there's been a lot of social media clips of him throwing 50-yard like bombs on the nose. Our guy Derek Clausen over at Football Outsiders actually did a tape breakdown of Malik Willis and showed kind of the highs and lows of him, where he gets out of a lot of plays, but then does sometimes have some tough reads that are, like he can get out of with arm strength at the NFL level. Probably gonna be tough. I love Malik Willis, Pete. And I know you're a little bit maybe dodgier on some of these rookie QBs coming in. I don't think you should draft Malik Willis right now because you just don't know where he's going to go. It wouldn't shock me if the Lions stick him really high. It wouldn't shock me if we talked about that he goes to be the understudy to Marcus Mariota. But there's so much variability there, and I think a lot of the variability still leads to him not starting day one. And I think for Superflex, you need that QB to start day one.
Yeah, I'm not admittedly as deep into the quarterback prospect weeds right now. I think just from a macro perspective, I want to take shots on these rookie quarterbacks right now while they are cheap. I was checking in, I believe it was in the Ship Chasing Discord. Our guy Drico was, pointing out how last year all the rookie quarterbacks got extremely expensive. Trey Lance, we were chasing him into the ninth. I guess you could say Zach Wilson and Mac Jones, their price stayed in check. But once they get these landing spots and that uncertainty is removed, they just naturally move up in draft position. So I guess where I'm at right now, because I don't have strong thoughts on the specific quarterbacks themselves, is just sprinkling these guys in with a lean toward the cheapest of them. If everyone prefers Malik Willis, let them kind of go out of their way to get them. But I think with this build here, and we'll probably be looking at one at the 8-9 turn, I do think we should probably be taking our third quarterback.
Okay. So, and I guess for you, strategy wise, is it 3 QBs that you're trying to get to, or is it like 4 and you're willing to take some really lower rung guys for that fourth one?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd still probably prefer to get to 4 just because if we had 2 elite ones, if you get the Josh Allen or what was the combo that people got? Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, I'm fine going with 3 there. Even maybe a Justin Herbert, Matt Ryan. I don't know. I think it's fringy, but I probably am more comfy with 4.
Okay. Well, I mean, if it makes you more comfy, then
I'd love to be more comfy.
I think so. Are you opposed to a Drew Lock stab given his sneakiness as a free agent pickup?
I wouldn't want to take. Did Drew Lock just go? Where is Drew Lock?
No, he's still there. He's the 4th.
Oh, okay.
A little high.
I would rather like take, honestly, at this point, man, this is gross. Maybe we don't take a quarterback here.
I think we can ride with it.
What do you think about adding Michael Carter to kind of our Jets position?
Or Gabe Davis?
Well, why not both?
Okay, yeah, let's do both. I like that because Carter's kind of a thing you've taught me in some of these drafts. Like he's a hedge on Wilson being bad some weeks. Like, I mean, he can also get there too as a pass catcher. But like if there are weeks that Carter just kind of salts the game away, I know Tevin Coleman is back in tow, but you got to think Carter seizes more of that share. I feel like he does kind of cover our ass on the Wilson pick a little bit.
Yeah, and as Tommy points out, we could have grabbed Singletary as well if we wanted to do that. But yeah, I mean, there's the nice thing about the Carter pick, because we know he's shown a pass catching ability, is you can get, with some of those backs, say like the Eli Mitchell, like say if you were stacking up Eli Mitchell with a Trey Lance, Debo type build, like you're getting a macro correlation. If that team takes a leap, they're scoring a shit ton of touchdowns, that team's rolling and there's just lots of points to be had. Then there's the individual like play in game correlations there where, Eli Mitchell isn't going to be catching a lot of passes, presumably from Trey Lance. At least he didn't show it in year one. So that's what I like about Michael Carter, where we make a bet on the Jets to take a leap, but we could also get Zach Wilson to Michael Carter check down touchdowns. Like that, we also get that kind of stack equity there too. So I prefer those pass catching backs, and you could have made a case for it with Devin Singletary. I will say in general, the same reason I didn't want to draft Eli Mitchell, the same way I'm still a little hesitant on Singletary, is because I do think there are bombs that are going to go off in some of these backfields in the NFL draft. I feel pretty confident that the Jets wouldn't use much draft capital on a running back after getting Michael Carter and re-signing Tevin Coleman. However, with the Bills, they've had eyes for other running backs. I think they're a candidate to draft someone. And so I don't really want to be drafting Devin Singletary right now. I'd rather draft him post NFL draft when I think he'll slide when they inevitably pick up another running back.
There goes Drew Lock. Yeah, and I think somebody was saying in the chat earlier that Breece Hall has been linked recently in some reports. There we go. Silas saying that too. The Bills possibly taking Breece Hall in round 1. I don't know if they do that. Like Singletary to me showed enough down the stretch where I think they're more likely to take a second or third round running back in the hopes that one of these guys falls. Maybe an Isaiah Spiller, who I think has had some negative feedback about him so far. But I think that makes more sense to me. Like I feel like Singletary's role is pretty solid. I just like Gabe Davis more because of what he showed upside wise down the stretch, where he was basically Stephon Diggs and was an absolute monster.
Yeah, and I mean I've heard those rumors too that Silas is referencing. You would hope that from an organizational perspective, you'd look at the Chiefs as a cautionary tale with this thought of, oh, we're so close, again, to ripping off a bunch of Super Bowl runs. Let's just grab a first round running back. That's the missing piece. And as we saw with CEH, not only do you have to nail the draft evaluation that player is actually good, but on top of it, can it make a meaningful difference to your team? And as the Chiefs learned with backfilling Jerick McKinnon into much success, it's just like, I can't imagine that being the best use of draft capital. That said, the Bills certainly, I don't think are fully happy with Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. I think they are continuing to look out for it. And so the extent is to how big of a bomb goes off in this backfield. If it's a 5th, 6th round pick, maybe it doesn't change too much. If they get a running back in the 2nd round, I mean, that's going to materially change things.
And Eric making a good point too, that the Bills front office, Brandon Beane in particular, probably too analytically inclined to get a go running back in the 1st round. I think that's a pretty fair one. I mean, it's not great draft capital, and the Bills have shown the ability to kind of push the chips in where they want to at the spots that are hard to replicate, like paying that big deal to Von Miller, maybe moving on from some guys like Cole Beasley a little more easily. So yeah, I would be inclined to think that Breece Hall doesn't go there, but and I also think too, like they were feeding Singletary 25 times a game down the stretch. Like he didn't win them anything in Kansas City, but still like was good enough there that I think they add somebody, but it's adding somebody in the hopes that Singletary, still gets there. Like, I don't think they're taking the job away from him. I just don't see that happening.
I'm glad that we waited on QB here. I mean, just looking at the quarterbacks that went, I don't know if there's a huge tier gap to who's available here. I think we should grab probably one of these rookies here, Corral, Ritter, or Howell. I don't know if you have a preference.
I like what I'm hearing about Ritter. He's a big armed guy. I think he's actually one of the higher ones on the FO40. So if we want to do a rookie, I think I would go his way. I also like Garrett Wilson a lot here.
Yeah, I think we should definitely take Garrett Wilson. I just realized how far Ritter is down in both the ADP. So it's, again, one of those things. I mean, we're only at pick 120 right now, Corral coming up. So maybe we don't force the issue, although we could get a little squeezed out at QB3 if we don't do it here. But man, it is tough to pass on some of these skill position players.
Yeah, I mean, Chase Claypool. We could also get another rookie in Drake London and kind of take away at least FO's 2 top receivers on the FO40. I like Drake London here. I'm intrigued by it.
Yeah, I'm down.
All right.
Let's grab London here.
And I think we can get Ritter later. Ritter, though, I mean, he's number 3 in terms of QBs on our FO40 or FO Fantasy 40 board, behind Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis. I certainly like Willis the most by a decent margin. Pickett, I've seen some positive tape breakdowns from people over the course of the last few weeks that seem like, this hand size thing is not great. I think it's hard to say that a guy having the smallest hands in the league is going to be a positive, but he does enough, and he's probably the most likely to have high draft capital and actually play. Ritter, though, 6'4", 215, big dude, can run the ball. I feel like Ritter is, to me, the guy that, like, we drafted Sam Howell earlier on, and GM Shorty stuff saying Ritter has a lot of physical tools. Ritter, to me, is the guy that, like, maybe he ends up kind of a Davis Mills spot where he's, drafted a little bit lower by a team that just needs somebody, and he ends up getting the reps and actually being useful enough to keep playing.
Yeah, and I think I just wanted to kind of survey what the draft room was doing with quarterbacks. Obviously, this NF42 kind of put all of us in a rock and a hard place, ripping off 4 straight QBs. But, just seeing the room here. So Hawkberg still has 2 QBs, Lemmings 3, Debo has 3 late. Our guy Joshua Frick has 1, 2, 3. Trev 1, 2, 3. Welshier 1, 2, 3. I'm just trying to get a vibe here. 3. Most teams have 3 quarterbacks right now. Looks like Davis 410 from the 3 hole. It only has 2 so far, but yeah, I think we're playing a little bit of chicken. But if our thesis is there's a few of these rookie quarterbacks here that we're okay with, Corral, Ritter, Howell, and that most teams have already gotten to 3 quarterbacks, we're probably okay.
Yeah, I think Ritter's going to come to us. I'm hopeful. And again, I'm saying that knowing that we often get trolled by just saying these things on the stream and then watching them immediately evaporate before our eyes. But I also, I feel good about our 2 QBs. Like, I like Zach Wilson taking the jump. He still was doing the stuff in college, or that he did in college, that made him jump out to me, throwing the deep ball, still trying to get the ball downfield after he had that, kind of off for injury / they kind of wanted him to reevaluate how he was playing the game. I thought he looked better. So I'm intrigued by Wilson, and I think we might not even need this QB3 functionally. And as people are pointing out too, we did get Drake London, who's rumored to be going to the Jets potentially. I think they take one of those wide receivers early, and we got the 2 best receivers, I think, in the class. So I feel good about our draft overall.
Yeah. And I mean, as Tommy points out, we could also make up for it with volume, really, digging through the bottom of the barrel there. I mean, because at that point too, you can grab the handcuff quarterbacks as well. I don't think, grabbing a Teddy Bridgewater type behind Tua. I think that stuff is certainly in play, and maybe with a lean toward, obviously we have 2 rookies, so we don't know where they're at yet. And otherwise we've stacked our guys up, but you could break ties. Like if Jimmy Garoppolo was still here, I would definitely say him on the off chance that he stays in San Francisco. And maybe I shouldn't even say off chance at this point, but then getting a 3rd stack with Kittle. I feel like looking for little angles like that with your, say, 3rd, 4th, 5th quarterbacks definitely makes sense.
So here's the thought starter for you. Sam Darnold there. Seems like he is 4th on that list at QB right now behind a bunch of rookies. Is he not a little undervalued? And I know Sam Darnold was not great last year, but he did start well, if we're forgetting that entirely, and then he kind of fell off. I don't know. I feel like Sam Darnold should be going after all the rookies.
Yeah, I just think he has a real chance of, being the backup there with whoever they inevitably draft, because I do think they're going to draft someone.
Chark or Spiller for me would be my thought.
Yeah, I want to grab Spiller. I like that a decent bit there.
And we didn't take Brees, so I feel like we're kind of making a bet that Brees is not the rookie everybody thinks he's going to be. People in the chat I saw were saying that he's going to be going top 10. I mean, maybe that's the case. I'm not sure about that. But I think going that way at running back with Spiller, it seems interesting to me.
Did you say Chark?
I like Chark. I think Chark is interesting. Yeah.
I'm down with Chark, and he's a lot of formats probably wouldn't consider him, but he's better in best ball, I would say.
I agree. And I honestly think there is some talent here. Like Tim Patrick, I feel like kind of sneaky as well, because he's going to probably have the upside weeks where you do see the higher drafted Cortland Sutton, the higher drafted Jerry Jeudy, kind of falter a little bit. So I feel like, to me, Tim Patrick would be one we could have justified there over DJ Chark, even though DJ Chark, to me, I like the chance for him to get a redemption story in Detroit. And I also like that he threw Urban Meyer fully under the bus after him being a complete shithead. I think that's a good approach by DJ Chark.
Didn't everyone throw Urban Meyer under the bus?
Yes.
Was anyone caping for Urban Meyer after that?
Well, the one girl who was grinding on him at the bar, I think, was the only one who fully protected the Urban Meyer narrative and said,
What did
probably
she
nothing
say?
more
I
than
missed that quote.
oh no, she just never sold them out. Like she didn't go to the media, she didn't do anything. She just let it ride. I'm sure she knew, like she went private on Instagram and all of that, but didn't sully the good name of Urban Meyer. That is no longer a good. Like, what is he doing now? What does he do with his career? He goes back to TV, right? Like they would still hire him.
Yeah, he could probably get a TV job. Maybe he does one of these. Hey, God, this reminds me because I was thinking of these Netflix trends, and I was maybe Urban Meyer could have a Bad Vegan or Tinder swindler-esque profile. Have you guys watched Bad Vegan yet? I know you've been busy.
I have not watched Bad Vegan yet. I've seen it pop up a lot as being interesting, but I feel like I got a little bit spoiled on the criminal documentary thing, and I just haven't gotten in this most recent wave because I was so in on them early. I was watching all of them, and I feel like now I'm just like, I get it. People are bad.
Bad Vegan is worth watching. It's a 4-episode little mini series documentary. Probably could have been 2 to 3. They stretched it a bit, but it is even more maddening than the Tinder Swindler. Did you watch Tinder Swindler?
I know the story, but yeah, I didn't actually watch that one.
Well, like with that, you're like, how did the girls fall for this? And you're kind of just shaking your head. With this one, you just want to like shake this woman and be like, what? How did you fall for this? But it's worth watching, partly too, because there's this random connection to the swindler in the Bad Vegan story being online buddies with Alec Baldwin and having 50,000 Twitter followers. And they like never even fully addressed it after dropping that at the top. And I'm like, tell us how the fuck he was friends with Alec Baldwin and had 50,000 Twitter followers. So if that doesn't hook you, Spags, I don't know what will.
That's sure. If there's one thing that's going to hook me, it's social media engagement, as we know. So I might give it a shot. We're Friday night hangout. We don't have a show going right now. We've been watching like Severance on Apple TV, which is fine.
Is that good?
It's interesting. It's an interesting concept. It's like, I feel like it's like a lot of the Apple TV shows where they're really well produced, amazing stars. And it's like, I don't know that this is really hooking me, but I'll keep watching it because it's here.
Yeah. Yeah. So the quarterbacks are definitely drying up here. I think we should grab a quarterback at this turn, either Howell or you might get your wish and Sam Darnold.
Look, I think Darnold's worth it. I think, especially if we are going to take flyers on, whatever QBs are there at the end too. Like Darnold is technically a starter right now.
So do you want to do Darnold over Howell?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I'm fine with that. And then we should probably not let tight end get too far away from us either.
Gerald Everett,
my guy Gerald Everett. I'm just going to put him in the queue.
Oh, we have Uzoma there too, though.
Oh, you're right. Maybe we could sit on that tight end and let the room decide for us. And then we're looking at running back or wide receiver here. Uncertainty with Landry and Jones.
Your boy McKissick is there, and I feel like you made a pretty interesting case for him earlier, though you could make kind of a similar case for Kenneth Gainwell.
But yeah, the only reason I'm against that case a little bit is just because I don't think we need that type of stuff. You know what? I'm just going to should I just grab our tight end?
Yeah, do it.
I know this is reaching, but we didn't have enough time to talk it out. What I was going to say about McKissick is I like that profile more in my 0 RB rooms where I need that score at the beginning of the season. Like I need his 9 to 10 points. Whereas with our running back room, we're hopefully going to be using Najee and Jacobs every week. Carter will give us a high floor too. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'd rather take bigger cracks at running back for our remaining running back picks. Whereas we kind of know what we're going to get with McKissick.
No, I always love hearing your thought process on that. And I think that makes sense. And, even the way you were counting the QBs earlier, like these are the little wrinkles that if you are playing on Underdog for the first time and you're using that splash promo code that we have over there to get yourself double your deposit up to $100, like watch what Pete does on these shows, like just running kind of a board and looking at things, obviously using a brick overlay, certainly not going to hurt with Leone's ETR projections, but there's a lot of ways to skin the cat here. And I think fundamentally, like is what you do intuitively. Hopefully some people actually learn some stuff from this because there's gonna be a lot of best ball drafts going on this show and just overall an Underdog all summer long, pretty much.
Yeah, and I should say that's nice of you to say, but I do feel still flying pretty blind in these super flex ones. I'm still very much figuring it out. Obviously, there's principles that you can apply from general best ball strategy, but these super flex drafts are, it's the Wild West. We're on the bleeding edge of creating the data that will then be analyzed last year to tell us about win rates and stuff. But you did mention a bunch of best ball drafts flying. I should also point out in the Deposit Kingdom Discord, per the request of Phil Burnzone, I created a best ball roll tag. And basically, if you go into the rolls channel that's at the top of the Discord, you can react with an emoji and you'll get that roll. And then when people are looking to fill a best ball draft, they can tag that roll similar to your good shit Spags roll and kind of be alerted that people are trying to get a draft up and running. So if you're in the Deposit Kingdom Discord, which I highly recommend, and you are a best baller, grab that roll. And I already woke up this morning to multiple notifications that people were trying to fill super flex drafts last night.
That's fun. I mean, honestly, too, for the people out there, like this is like I know people are online a lot, but like this is a way to make friends too and do stuff. Like the Pete's community is very much a community that I love seeing the names here. We see a lot of the same people in our chat as well on here. Well, like these guys are all caring about the same stuff, and gals are caring about the same stuff you do. If you are watching this show and watching a live best ball draft in March, like you are fully in the audience here that should be in Pete's Deposit Kingdom and checking that out and just learning from some people too as well. Like a lot of the guys in Pete's Deposit Kingdom have been doing this well. I know you mentioned Drico earlier, Liam, like guys are there who actually have won gigantic sums of money doing this too. So learn something, play, have some fun. Like best ball to me, one of the best things we've done with the show, I think, to kind of evolve a little bit more and put into practice a lot of the stuff that we're talking about all year long.
Yeah, we're gonna have it'll be funny to look back at the start of the season and see how many drafts we have under our belt. I thought I was pushing it to the max last year, and I don't even think it will hold a candle to this year when the dust settles, just because we're drafting earlier and often way more than even last year.
Sprung MC in the chat saying I need to research where to get a water barrel like Spags. It is in fact a Tekeya, Tekeya. I am not an influencer. I in fact bought this for my partner Alex. She loved it, and I got it for myself because I honestly don't drink enough water when I use a 20-ounce bottle. I need to go to a 40. So 3 of these a day, you're good to go. You'll keep your skin looking youthful and fresh like this. Who would have guessed I'm a dad?
Do we just want to run it back with the old man stack or the dusty stack,
Robbie?
Sam Darnold to splash play Bob?
Why not? I feel like it's a splash play draft. Why not give Robbie Anderson one more chance up? He will probably drop like he does all of his catches.
I'm down with that. And then, I mean, do we want to play the rumors? Do we want to play the Ronald Jones to KC? I mean, that's pretty damn interesting if it's true.
It is interesting. Peoples Jones interests me a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Peoples Jones too.
I just think the days where you don't see Amari Cooper having an 8 catch, 80 to 100 yard day, you're going to see Peoples Jones really, I think, benefit from that. Like he is the one guy who remains, and Deshaun Watson, I think, will not be afraid to throw it to him deep.
He could definitely get cucked pretty hard if Will Fuller goes to Cleveland, which I know is rumored, but probably a pretty good risk reward proposition at this price. Will you help translate this comment for me, Spags? Because I don't know what Jay Brooks means when he says, I am his Jared Leto.
You're his 30 Seconds to Mars. You're his punk rock Joker. You're his heroin addict in Requiem for a Dream. There's a lot of ways it could go, but he's been calling us like hardcore, like making jokes about being hardcore or something. I don't know what's going on with Jay Brooks. He's working a bit. I don't know what the angle is though.
Yeah, like all good bits, it takes a little massaging. You got to find your voice. And Jay Brooks, we just want you to let you know that the chat here is your sandbox. Feel free to work it out.
Maybe he's your Margot Robbie in Suicide Squad, and you're his Jared Leto.
Okay. I have not seen Suicide Squad, so I don't get that reference. My main Margot Robbie reference is Wolf of Wall Street, so hopefully I'm not that version.
Now, Margot Robbie is Harley Quinn in those movies, so she's like the edgy, like Joker's girlfriend in that one. But yeah, she's very much in love with him, so I feel like that would be it. If that's where Jay Brooks is going, we just don't know where that delicate genius mind of Jay Brooks is.
Yeah, right now. There is a wide range of outcomes for this comp here.
30 Seconds to Mars had some bangers, by the way. I don't know if anybody wants to agree with that on this show, but his like screamo hits, I feel like 30 Seconds to Mars, Jared Leto was crushing.
Yeah, there you go. Spank you said my name. Anything for you.
You did it. What a moment.
Sammy Telesco coming in hot. I'm in 26 drafts so far for Superflex and a bunch of rookies and sophomores and the original big board that is full, plus a bunch of $3 and $5 leagues. Let's go Buffalo. Buffalo War Picks. I mean, it was a nice ad. Everyone, let us know your total best ball portfolio to this point in the chat, like Sammy.
I
I know there's
respect it. Buffalo's going to be good, man. Like, it's not like you can deny that. So more power to him. If this is the one case where you could be a homer and draft Buffalo stacks, because Pete and I feel like we're not biased at all. And here we are drafting Buffalo heavy early on.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have any team biases.
No, I mean, I am I'm ethnically a Cowboys fan. I've been doing that for a while. But no, that is I don't identify as a Cowboys fan anymore. I kind of root for them from afar, certainly through the prism of living with an Eagles fan as well and being here in Philly now. But no, I don't really root for teams. I root for me not losing money is generally my main interest every week.
I'm still bracing myself, though, as you become more and more of a Philadelphian, where you start to kind of leak in. Yeah, I was just driving to the grocery store. I heard a rumor that Jalen Reagor is going to see an uptick in targets on morning radio. I'm just waiting for that localized bias to come in, because I get asked about boots on the ground New England takes. I'm only a mere 40 minutes away from Foxborough. Think of all the things I know.
I'm sure if I were to, like, when Luke is in daycare and I have to socialize with other parents and stuff, I'm sure I'll hear some of that. I don't listen to local radio usually when driving. I'm usually a podcast guy. So I'm firmly national media only. Like, I like local media. I watch Sixers games. I guess would be the only thing on NBC Sports Philadelphia here. But besides that, like, I don't need local takes. Like, local takes, no offense to the local broadcasters out there. Like, I've worked with Aton before at Osmo, who's one of the local Philly personalities on radio here as well. And like, they do a great job, but ultimately, like, it's a local take for a reason. Like, it's like designed to be for the fans. It's meant to be angry at the local stuff, or to be like really overwhelmingly bullish in it in a way that, like, national media, for the most part, for as ill-advised and ill-informed as a lot of national media can be, at least they're coming from an earnest place.
Eric here said, hold my beer to Sammy. He's been putting in work. 25 Superflex, 44 sophomore juniors, 34 early big board drafts, or 34 early and 93 pre-draft. Goodness. Yeah, these guys are getting after it. I need to, if I'm going to, hold on to my best ball thought leader status, I need to crank up my volume here.
Also, some funny chats going on. I like when you guys do a comedy pyramid for us, and it brings me joy. Sprung MC saying the Watson quote earlier. It was weird because I was moving to Cleveland anyway. I've dreamed about living there since I was a kid. FF Doom says LMAO, so we know for a fact Watson is a liar. Great. As if we didn't know already from the other things in his life.
We are back on the clock here.
Jahan Dotson, one more rookie.
I mean, you mentioned that he's pretty high up on that FO board. I'm cool with it. I don't know a ton about him otherwise.
Oh, and we got Barrios there too.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, might as well. I mean, we're going all in on the Jets. I don't know if that's something we want to be doing. Definitely no quarterbacks worth taking here. Sure, we can do Barrios. Stack them up.
I think that we got a really nice stack here. If the Jets are somehow competitive, I think New England also regresses. Like, New England has done nothing in free agency. Mac Jones is going to be a little bit better, but like, they didn't add a single wide receiver. I don't really feel good about any of that. And Josh, our poor boy Josh Frick, mad that we stole Dotson from him. Sorry, is Dotson the new Julio Jones? That's the question we have to ask for our pal Josh.
Yeah, we're going to find out just how faithful Joshua Frick is to his boy Julio. It's been tough times for the Julio stands of late. Derek, my God. I mean, this is how you stick it to Malden. 145 big boards, 18 rookie sophomores, 66 sophomore juniors, 60 backyard, 32 super flex. I feel like it's like when people, what's your body count, dude? Well, 145 big boards.
I've been hammering them. No big deal. Go out to the bar, come home, have a few big board drafts for myself. Whatever, man. It's, sometimes you can't be too picky at the end of the night.
I don't know if there's a douchier turn of phrase than body count. Like, how did that even become a saying? My God.
It's just like, oh, how do we make sex sound tougher? Body count. How do we make it sound like an 80s Chuck Norris film? Body count.
How much are you throwing up on the bench these days? And while you're at it, tell me your body count. I do think we're going to have to draft a running back with our last pick.
All right. So who can we hedge against here? We could hedge against the McCaffrey thing and take Foreman if he's still there.
Well, yes, I don't mind that if we want to just keep doing this macro team correlation stuff. I also am pretty intrigued by Benjamin. I think with Edmonds out, he, I think, is the most likely handcuff to James Conner in that offense. Of course, they could draft someone, but we also, Benjamin was one of those guys they drafted in previous years and then took forever for him to kind of carve out a role. So I'm maybe less scared with an incoming rookie unless they invest, serious capital in it. But yeah, Eno's a guy I like.
I think, they took the choice away of Deonta Foreman there. So I feel like, Benjamin's cool by me. I don't mind Mo Alley Cox either. We know that Matt Ryan's been a fan of the tight end. So that's certainly an okay move. Jamal Williams should be a running back. Duke Johnson may be interesting to hedge against the fact that we didn't take Singletary.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
Like if we don't get Eno, I would say Eno first, but if we don't get him.
So like trying to think through that thing I was saying too, where, I mean, I know one of my sneaky plays with White, I guess though, with a room with only 4 running backs, it's not like, I think we could still use some pass catching floor in a pick. So I don't mind that at all. For those of you guys asking me to criticize drafts, roast drafts, I mean, outside of NF42 ripping off 4 straight quarterbacks, I'm not in a position to tell you guys that you're wrong yet. Like I said, I've only done 2 of these live drafts yet. I don't have an incredible feel for things. So you guys are probably better off roasting each other at this point, but trust me, I will get there. And when I do, I will let you know how shitty of a drafter you are.
And also we drafted a full jet stack. So I don't know that we're the moral higher ground anyway.
And we took CJ Uzoma like 30 picks ahead of ADP because we didn't talk it out soon enough. So,
well, and also the K Adams bump, I thought was pretty important to note.
Yeah. Josh, we want roasts. Here's a roast. Find a better player to like and love than Julio Jones.
Ooh, sick burn. All right. What are we going to take for the last one here? I'm okay with James White. I would take Duke Johnson too, again, because we just passed on Singletary at that point.
Sure. You want to do some Duke? I think I'd prefer James White.
Take James White. Go that way. Yeah.
I mean, I need the perfect bookend, putting my money where my mouth is after saying he's one of the sneakiest signings here.
And when Duke Johnson runs for 1,500 yards next year and he's as good as he was in Miami or even better because of Josh Allen, we'll rue the day that cost us $50,000 in this draft.
Mega step. There we go.
They are mega sticks.
You know what? I was blocked by the writing there.
All right, so that was fun there. Go what you want.
No. Oh, look at Joshua clapping back. It's going to be the toughest of scenes for you guys when Visca sides with the Chiefs. You guys are going to be shambles.
Say too, like for you, Pete, like if you were to make this bet, who has more receiving yards from now forward, Laviska Shenault or Julio Jones? Visca's got to be like minus 1,000.
I was going to say I would bet the max on that.
Yeah, I think so fully. Either we're going to do some drafts. We're going to continue to do these drafts every Friday on the show, maybe even Mondays if we don't have enough to talk about, but we will be back Monday at 2:30. Again, make sure you are subscribed to Pete's channel as well as the Splash Play channel, because we're going to think about how to, enhance that process for both channels coming up in the weeks and months in the off season here. And also make sure you're following at Peter Overzet, following at Chris Spags, and following at Splash Play Pod so you can find the latest news. If you want to play on the draft like we just did on Underdog, we use that promo code SPLASH as well. $100 deposit match or up to $100 deposit match on there. So double your deposit over Underdog and play some of these drafts, because as you can see, people putting up a lot of numbers, a lot of body counts, some could say, on Underdog. You could do that too by doubling your deposit bonus and playing on a Superflex with $50K up top in that best ball format. Pete, any words here for you? Any shows coming up that you want to talk about?
No shows. Gonna enjoy the weekend here. I'll just put another plug to hop in the Deposit Kingdom Discord. We got the Splash Play channel. We got a good best ball channel. Lots of good conversation, draft board sharing going on. So if you're looking to continue the conversation here, I highly recommend hopping in there.
And if you want to see my snarky dad content, follow me on Instagram at Chris Spags too, because I do post some stories there. I'm trying really hard to not oversaturate because I don't want to be that person, but I am going to post some sporadically just because I can't resist it. I am a sucker of a father, per always here. We'll be back Monday at 2:30, so come join us then. Enjoy your weekends, guys. We'll see you soon.